Okay, just got back from the scrapyard where I picked up this smashed iMac that I paid $15 for. Now, some people would rightly ask why I would pay that much money for an old iMac that's smashed. Well, I was able to bring a power cable and it powered on and even booted to a drive. So the next step is to clean it up. This would be something I would use, not something I would sell on. And I might just take off this panel or maybe at some point replace this outer glass. I don't know. So this is step one, cleaning this thing. Quick superficial clean, and I just booted up the smashed iMac at home. I don't know the specs at all. I know it has some kind of hard drive that seems to work. I have it hooked up to a PC keyboard and mouse in my external Mac hard drive OS installer that I made that has different operating systems for older Macs on it. Not sure what OS I can put on here. Okay, I'm going to boot to external hard drive and see what I can do here. Okay, trying this again. Booting into the High Sierra OS installer. It didn't like Big Sur or Monterey. It's probably an over-optimistic attempt on my part. Anyway, so it looks like we're able to boot into the High Sierra installer, hopefully, assuming there's nothing majorly wrong with this thing, other than the cracked outsides. The ports look fine. Anyway, so we're booting into the installer from my external hard drive with a few Mac OSs on it. Let's see what we get here. So what am I hoping to get out of this? I'm hoping to maybe set this up to dual boot between Mac and Windows. And, well, first I need to see what the specs are. See if it has 4 gigs of RAM, 8. Would love for it to have 16, but that's over optimistic. Love for it to be an i7 quad core, but we'll see what it's going to be. This is not the thicker 1-inch thick all around iMac, so that means this came after 2011, I believe. Of course, it's 2026 now, so that just means it's less than 15 years old, but I guess I should pause here so you don't have to wait around, and I don't have any fancy software to edit this later anyway, and I have limited space on my phone. Okay, the High Sierra installer is booted up, and we're going with English. So this is an A1419 iMac, which doesn't tell us much yet because they made that for, it looks like, 5 years from 2012 to 2017. So I'm going to take this internal hard drive. I'm going to go ahead and partition it as 2 hard drives. Because I'm going to put the OS on Macintosh hard drive, and I'm going to save the other one to potentially put Windows on or Linux. So we are partitioning the hard drive and formatting it so that we can do a clean install. So again, this was made between 2012 and 2017 apparently. This appears to be a 27-inch iMac A1419. Okay, that's done. So now we will quit Disk Utility and install Mac OS. I previously had the Ethernet cable plugged in for my router, but that was a bit premature. I don't want it reporting home, doing anything that bogs it down or gets it off track from me doing a clean install. Again, I picked this up from a scrapyard. I wonder how many times people smashed this outer glass and got a new computer and threw away or donated this one, not realizing it's just a thin, I believe it's plexiglass layer. I don't know that Apple sold replacement plexiglass for these, but in my experience with these, having worked at a school, this is just a plexiglass screen protector, essentially, like on a phone, like a Gorilla Glass screen protector. I don't think I'm going to try taking off this plexiglass screen, at least until I get a replacement, assuming I can find someone with a dead computer who doesn't mind me taking their plexiglass. Because it might be that the glass beneath it isn't broken at all, and then it might look almost new. Anyway, it says we have about 3 minutes to go. I'll get back with you in a few minutes, hopefully. Okay, life got in the way of me working on this for a little bit, and I have subsequently and since updated to Sequoia on this machine using OpenCore Legacy Patcher, and I'm waiting to see how that will work. It looks like there may be some issues with the NVIDIA video card with this model. Also, I learned that this version of the iMac, the screen protector thing isn't installed magnetically. It's actually there's sticky gasket tape around the display cover. So if I were to be able to find a replacement for this outer layer of this, it'd probably be a bit more tricky than I was initially realizing, because this obviously is far from ideal. Goodness. Anyway, but things seem to be, I mean, it was running absolutely fine with High Sierra, which is why I initially installed on it. But then I realized that operating system is so out of date that a lot of stuff just won't work, I guess, or potentially be as secure. Anyway, so I can't update to the most recent Tahoe because I think that requires Apple Silicon. But I am on Sequoia here. So I'd be interested to know any of your opinions on what operating system would make the most sense for this machine. I subsequently found out that this is a late 2013 iMac with an i7. I really lucked out. It has 16 gigs of memory, which makes it so much more usable than merely 8 gigs of memory. I can't believe I got that lucky with that. Of course, it would have been nice if it was a 5K Retina iMac, but beggars can't be choosers. Anyway, right now I'm looking at a website I like called videohelp.com to see if there's any Mac video software. I am a PC person, so I am looking for the stuff that I like to use on a PC, like something called Media Player Classic Home Edition, things like that. It doesn't look like that has been ported to Mac OS. Guess I should try to run Steam and see if I'm not much of a gamer at all either, so I won't mind being able to only use real low-end stuff. Anyway, that's where I'm at the moment. This is an update on the iMac 27-inch that I got at the scrapyard. I apologize. I've noticed that I say and a lot and say okay when I start recording a lot, but I'm very fragmented. I have ADHD, so my mind is always wandering around uselessly. So I ended up getting Boot Camp running, booting both Mac and Windows, and I continued to use OpenCore Legacy Patcher. Can't remember what the latest OS I got running on there. I think it might have been Sequoia. I can't remember now. And then I think I might have gone back down to something earlier because it was supposed to run better on this model. Anyway, I installed Windows 11 on it because it's very capable of running that. And then I was like getting greedy like Icarus, flying too close to the sun, wanting to install Linux on there too. So it was triple booting with Mint, Mac OS, and Windows. But of course I ran into issues with the triple booting where I wasn't able to boot into one operating system or another. And I finally found an app called Refind for choosing what OS to boot into. But I have gaps in my understanding of EFI booting, and I can reliably run the Mac OS, and I could run the Linux Mint installation. I believe I installed the Mate desktop. I don't know if it's pronounced Mate or Mate. For some reason I like Mate better. But if I booted into the Mac OS, then it would forget the Mint installation. And then if I booted to a Mint installer USB, reinstalled Refined, then I could get back into Mint. And I can see that the Windows partition is still there, but I don't think I was able to boot into Windows after something or other, after one of the updates with Linux Mint apparently. Anyway, my wife got back from visiting her folks, and she had been a Mac person, especially when she was at work, but I'm cheap and we're not wealthy, so we never bought Macs in this household. And so I thought this might be a good machine for her to use because it's still pretty good. I forget which generation i7 it is, but it's an i7, 16 gigs of RAM, and if she's running an older version of some graphic editing software, that could still be very usable for her. So she has that machine in her studio now, and she hasn't used it for any graphical editing yet, so I don't know how that's going to go or how happy she'll ultimately be with the machine. I'm certainly not going to give up on that machine, and I hope to find a replacement plexiglass for that, although the odds of getting a used one are probably slim because I don't know how well you can remove the plexiglass from that unit without it breaking in the process, because it's held on with some pretty strong glue all around the screen. I really like the previous design so much more because those are just held on with magnets, and it's really easy to basically pull that outer glass off and then potentially reuse it if you have a machine that has a smashed outer glass. You can find a dead 27-inch iMac and just swap it out, the glass. So that's where we're at with that machine for now. If it doesn't work out for my wife, then I'll figure out something else to do with it. Right now she's just been using it to watch videos while she's been sick in her room, so that I don't get sick. If you have any ideas or recommendations, or if you just want to chat about, rescuing old hardware, saving it from landfill or e-waste, obviously it's best that this stuff doesn't end up in a landfill, but if you can save it from even e-waste recycling, that and give it a little bit longer life, that saves some of that processing and ecological effects. So that's what happened with that $15 scrapyard iMac so far. I may update you later. Anyway, thanks. If you got this far, I appreciate it. Thanks for watching.